Let's go back to the beginning. Day 1. Duryodhana is born, and the first sound he makes is not a cry. It's a bray, like a donkey. Jackals howl, vultures circle the palace. Vidur, the wisest man in Hastinapur, walks up to the king and says, "Abandon this child. 1 day old, no words, no choices, no actions, verdict already in." Now, think about what that does to a child. Not the abandonment. Dhritarashtra kept him, but the label. Because labels don't need to be spoken out loud to be heard. They live in the way people look at you, in the silence after your name is said, in the cousins who are praised openly, warmly, constantly, while you are simply tolerated. The Pandav weren't just better in people's eyes. They were loved differently, and Duryodhana felt that gap every single day. That's not jealousy. That's a child asking one question on repeat. Why am I never enough? Years pass. Duryodhana grows up, becomes a prince, a warrior, a king in waiting. And then the Pandav build Indraprastha, a palace so magnificent that the floors look like water and the water looks like floors. Duryodhana visits, and in front of the entire court, he walks into a reflecting pool, fully clothed, fully dignified, crown prince of Hastinapur, straight into the water. The laughter that followed, he never forgot it. Now, most people read this moment as comedy, but look at it again. This is a man who has spent his entire life trying to prove he is equal to his cousins, who has trained harder, fought harder, wanted harder, and in one moment, in their palace, on their floor, in front of their court, he becomes the joke. He goes home, stops eating, cannot sleep. One moment of laughter, and it reaches all the way back to day 1, to the verdict that was already in before he could speak. You are not enough. You never were. He knew what that moment required. Walk away, rise above it, let it go. And he could not. Something older than his logic refused. There's a name for that gap. That space between what you know is right and what you can actually do. Psychologists call it ego-dystonic behavior, when a person acts against their own values repeatedly and cannot stop. It's one of the most painful places a human being can live. Because you're not ignorant, you're trapped. And the man who described this feeling most precisely in all of human literature is the one we've always called the villain. The war is almost here. Every elder has spoken. Bhishma, Drona, Vidur, Gandhari, all saying the same thing. Choose peace. There is still time. And then Krishna comes, not as a god, as a messenger, offering the simplest deal in history, 5 villages. That's all the Pandav want. 5 villages, and a war that will kill hundreds of thousands never happens. The room goes quiet, everyone waiting, and Duryodhana says, "No, I will not give them land equal to a needlepoint." The elders are stunned. Krishna looks at him, and in that moment, something shifts in Duryodhana. Janami Dharmam, I know what is right, and I cannot make myself follow it. I know what is wrong, and I cannot make myself stop. That is ego-dystonic behavior, not described in a textbook, described by the man living it in his own words. This is where we need to stop and name what's happening. What Duryodhana is experiencing has a clinical name. Ego-dystonic behavior. Let me explain what that means. Ego-dystonic is when a person's actions are in direct conflict with their own values. They know what's right. They want to do what's right. And they cannot. Not won't. Cannot. The logic gets bypassed. The values get bypassed. And something older takes over. Survival. For Duryodhana, survival meant one thing: prove you are enough every single day. Here's what the Mahabharata never tells you to feel about Duryodhana. Pity, not sympathy for his choices, Not justification for the destruction he caused, but pity for the boy who arrived in this world already sentenced, who spent every single day of his life trying to overturn a verdict that was never his to overturn. The wound wasn't in the dice game. It wasn't even in the war. The wound was in the first moment someone looked at him and decided, not enough. And nobody, not his father, not his teachers, nobody ever went back and undid that. So he carried it into every battle, into every refusal, into that room with Krishna, where he stood knowing exactly what was right and chose the wound anyway. Ego-dystonic behavior doesn't make someone a villain. It makes them human, trapped between what they know and what they cannot escape. The question isn't whether Duryodhana was good or evil. The question is, what verdict are you still trying to overturn? And is the fight worth what it's costing you? If this made you see Duryodhana differently, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not someone who loves mythology, someone who is fighting a battle that might actually be about something else entirely. And do check out LoreAndMind Hindi as well. Same stories, same psychology. For everyone who thinks in Hindi, link is in the description. I'll see you in the next one.